Going from 6 million followers on TikTok to 7 million followers is a huge metric. But when you look at the difference in the revenue that they earn, it's like the same. It doesn't correlate.
Right now, these vanity metrics of pulling out your phone, how many likes do I have? And being able to pull some value from that is absolutely worthless.
The illusion that the creator economy creates, it reminds me of Vegas. If you're a creator and you're trying to get brand deals, you're competing with big fish. You're chasing a metric. You're chasing a fake number.
It's called the Vanity Vortex.
Most brands are guilty of this. They're looking left and right at what their competition are doing. The smarter brands right now are looking for the invisible enemy. And Liquid Death did that, where they looked in on the water industry and said, plastic is our competition. You just got to get 100 videos out before you can even think about optimization. You just got to get the reps in. If you're the type of person that wants to get into content creation, but you're stuck on saying signal over noise, I need quality, I need to take time, I need to strategize, you run the risk of just honestly never starting.
Paralysis by analysis.
100%.
I'm a victim of that.
All of us are.
Yeah.
All right, well, here we are. AOS, episode 1. I think the whole purpose of this, it's been a long time coming. We're always living, breathing, personal brands, D2C companies, content creation, leveraging social media. We're living and breathing it, working with brands every day, as well as creators. But we don't necessarily get to talk about it as much. So the whole purpose of this was obviously for you and I to come together, share what we've seen each week, share what we've seen evolving in the space, and use this as a platform and an opportunity to have a conversation as it continues to evolve so much. So we can kick off. Anything you want to say before we dive in?
No, I think it's exciting. I think, being in the trenches, one of our clients says that a lot. It matters. I think being able to discuss, what we're dealing with on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, what the industry is doing, as you know, better than anybody, this industry is changing almost by the minute. I remember I was on a podcast and I said, video is not there yet. Video 3 not launched the next day. And so we're constantly being faced with, innovations and amazing tools to use, different updates on platforms and different things. I think this is a really, really good space to be able to talk about not only what's working, but I think underneath that, the foundational layers of, what matters long-term and, how we can help people build brands.
I mean, dude, yeah, AI is going to need some episodes on its own at some point. I got a couple of things that I wanted to go over today. First of all, I've made some notes on the whiteboard as well. I want to go over creator economy illusion versus operator reality. You and I talk about that a lot. I want to go over signal versus noise. That's a huge topic of conversation in our company right now. The invisible enemy. I love this one, and we've seen it through, the generations at this point, but there's some real pertinent examples that we can dive into, as well as playbooks that we've, outlaid ourselves. And then if we get time to get into the power of persona engineering, and at surface level, everyone throws the term personas around, but I want to dive into getting it with precision. And again, it's something we talk about a lot. So let's look at creator economy illusion versus operator reality first. Now, for context, for those that are watching, we manage a talent pool of, at this point, over 150 creators exclusively. And then we have relationships with many more. So we're working with creators on a day-to-day basis. These are huge YouTubers with millions and millions of followers, all the way through to TikTok stars, Instagram stars, and everything in between, right? So contextually, we are, by definition, in the trenches every single day. Now, the biggest thing that I bring up a lot, especially as we're working with creators specifically here, the illusion that the creator economy creates and these algorithms, these platforms, it reminds me of Vegas, right? When I speak to creators and they're celebrating going from 6 million followers on TikTok to 7 million followers, and there's like tears coming down their eyes, they're so happy. It's amazing. It's an incredible achievement. But, and it comes with a huge but, when we actually dive into the economics of it, and we're obviously on the receiving end from like a brand, activation and brand deals and ad revenue and all the rest of it. Going from 6 million followers on TikTok to 7 million followers is a huge metric. It's 1 million people. But when you look at the difference in the revenue that they earn, it's like the same. It doesn't correlate in the same manner. And that for me is for two reasons. There's a certain threshold that I think you got to reach. If you're a creator and you're trying to get brand deals, trying to be taken seriously as a career, if you will, if you've got 10,000 followers on any platform, you're competing with big fish, right? Brand typically, it's not to say there's not opportunity there, but there's a threshold that you have to meet, right? Once you get into that 6 figures of followers, you can command those sorts of things, number one. But number two, that these creators often fall into the trap of is like the Vegas lights and flashy lights, and they keep running the slot machine, is like you're chasing a metric, you're chasing a fake number. It doesn't translate.
It's called the Vanity Vortex. And you know, you're 100% right. You know, what authority and what value are you compounding with growth? Going from 6 to 7 million, what is that? 16%, 20% rise in followership? That's a big deal. But you famously I tell the story all the time. You had a creator, ton of views, wanted to get a shoe deal and would go through, hey, I want to work with Nike or whatever the brand was, I forgot. Want to go through this stuff, want to work. And you're like, dude, every single time you post a video, you don't have shoes on, or you're wearing this, or you're doing that. And aligning these creators to do this. I think that's an interesting parallel because, you know, right now, vanity, likes, comments. Well, comments and engagement is different, but these vanity metrics of pulling out your phone, how many likes do I have? And being able to pull some value from that is absolutely worthless. We've seen that with your page that you were randomly posting, just putting the reps in, which we'll talk about later. And then you did it with intention to compound the IP and your space in the marketing space. And it got the attention of the people we wanted to. It's not about views. We say, I'd rather have 1,000 engaged followers than 100,000 none.
Yeah.
We have a ton of talent on the talent side over the years that have pulled in major numbers and haven't sold a single product when brands partner with them.
Fact.
We've also have, you know, clients that have 10, 15, 20,000 followers that we've taken because we like them. And they're your, you know, kind of micro influencer. And they've done incredibly well for brands and have gotten long-term partnerships because it's authentic.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more. And actually, my profile is an interesting conversation point simply because I've only just started taking it seriously 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah.
And in that time, I had a phone call from one of the original founders from Von Dutch based on one of my breakdown case studies that I did.
Great genes.
Crazy, mate. Crazy. Like, dude, that story was unbelievable. There's a Hulu documentary about it all. Did a post on Emma Chamberlain and Pinterest, CEO of Chamberlain Coffee, CMO, sorry, of Chamberlain Coffee, CMO of Pinterest, both engaged and commented on that post. I mean, I got a phone call from the founder of the Enhanced Games, which is like the steroid Olympics. And this is in the space of a couple of months.
Now on that Chamberlain Coffee example, if you would have gotten 2 views, those 2 views are more valuable than anything.
100%.
The metrics don't matter.
Yeah.
How are you measuring value?
Yeah.
And that is, I'm building authority around a subject area that I, you know, am an expert at. I'm driving growth to something. For brands, it might be a product or service or, you know, whatever it is. And so if 2 people would have saw that video, to the world, that would have been a fail. It's a win.
Dude,
there couldn't be a bigger win.
100%. That video isn't by a long shot isn't close to being one of my highest performers. I think it got like 5,000 views on impressions on LinkedIn, and 2 of them.
What is your highest performing?
I've had over 1 million on LinkedIn.
Which one was that?
That was, I forget the name of the brand, which is terrible, but they repackaged, and ironically, it's around the invisible enemy, Touchland. They repackaged, you know, hand sanitizer, but in a cool, trendy way. I wouldn't go as far as to say it was the Labubu of hand sanitizers, but you know what I mean? They packaged it cleverly. Yeah, million million plus impressions on that one, and I've had a bunch of others that have come close. But regardless of my profile, it's the same message that you just said. It's really the quality of those followers over any kind of vanity metrics. And the same thing goes with brands, because you don't have to have a massive following to generate really strong revenue. We have multiple clients on our brand agency side that have relatively small and or niche audiences that do multiple millions of dollars annually in revenue through those audiences targeted. Now, on the creator side, same thing applies. As you said, we've got some that have many, many millions of followers, go to launch a t-shirt and it doesn't sell a single thing. And then on the flip side, you might have someone that's got 100,000 followers, but it's the core audience and they do a course or an event or any product or service.
Well, that's really interesting, and that gets to, I think what you mentioned is the next thing is signal versus noise,
Mhm.
because in a crowded space, people do want to be entertained, and I find that the people that have been, relatively unsuccessful in comparison to their following, have been entertainers and weren't a KOL in a certain niche that's very narrow vertical, or just have been able to do something really cool. Then how do brands integrate with that is very tough. And then people are going there because they want to take a break. I always say we have to like meet people where they're at and figure out where they're watching this content
Yeah.
on a break at work or trying to escape. And that's why quality and being able to, align with people and take them on a journey is so important. That's why series are so important, because people want to tune in. That's why all these things are so important. And so when we say signal versus noise, it's hey, um, are we resonating? Are we adding value? Is what we're saying and how we're talking to people, deep, or and not just surface level. Like, I'm going to do the recent trend, and now there's a place for that for new viewership, but overall, what does that look like? And we've seen it time and time and time again. Um, we were talking earlier about Gary Vee and what he used to preach. I was saying it on the Sean Kelly podcast. It's interesting because Gary Vee is the GOAT. And Gary Vee's entire thing was post, 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 post. And so when we start looking at, him posting and or recommending people to post on every platform, 50 pieces of content a day, I think it was at one time.
Right.
And it was like, yeah, that makes sense. You have an interesting take on this. I want to hear, but it's about quality over quantity now, because there's so much content, and now we have AI coming in and creating content. There's an over saturation of content available to us. And the platforms don't even care how many followers you have anymore.
Mm.
They care about the quality of your content and if people are actually wanting to watch it, and they'll push it. You could have 5 followers,
Mm.
and you don't need to warm up a platform anymore. That's very interesting.
No, so true. Two parts to that. Number one, you just reminded me, and it takes us back to the previous point real quick in terms of the followers. The way that these platforms are working at the moment, followers have become more irrelevant than ever because it's all treated like a For You page. It's all content based. Is the content good or bad? Because you'll see pages with 3 million followers on Instagram post a shit piece of content and it just won't perform. So it is, now more than ever, the quality of the content matters most. And to your point, where we're talking about signal over noise, making sure that your quality content breaks through the noise is now more important than ever too. The only thing that I caveat with this, whenever we're clients, be that brands, be that talent, my caveat to all of this is that inertia is real when it comes to content creation. And so for a lot of people, if they're going from cold turkey, no content creation whatsoever, there's a certain amount of reps that you do have to get through. I know Mr. Beast preaches this a lot. He talks about, from the YouTube perspective, you just got to get 100 videos out before you can even think about getting concerned about optimization and am I getting the views I should or not, because you just got to get the reps in, because you learn by getting the reps in. So, and I agree with that. The second part to it is like habit forming and the power of habit forming. If you're the type of person, this is more, I think, towards individual creators at this point, but if you're the type of person that wants to get into content creation and you're stuck on the belief, though true, but you're stuck on saying signal over noise. I need quality. I need to take time. I need to strategize. Like, you run the risk. It's not always going to happen because not everyone's this way inclined, but you run the risk of just honestly never starting.
Paralysis by analysis.
100%.
I'm a victim of that.
All of us are.
Yeah.
All of us are. And so for me, the line in the sand of saying one day you're going to produce a piece of content that you're going to post every single day. You're going to need to figure out how you do it, whether it's batch content creation, whether it's actually like hiring a videographer, like whatever you need to do. Stage level 1 is you are going to post every single day a piece of content. I'm now 2-3 or so months into that. The habit has been formed.
Well, you're a year and a half into that, but the first bit was you're just like, I make a commit. What was your commitment last year to yourself?
To just create content consistently.
You said, I want to post every single day for a year straight. You got there. It was fumbly. It was wild, but you committed to it.
Sure.
But now you're in the groove and now you can do it. We tell, personal brand clients that have never been, they have a great company. They're an expert in something and they finally they're stepping out and want to, expand their reach or their influence. And they want to start, posting content to social. And the first thing we have them do is shoot 50 to 100 reels that no one's going to see. Just all these content ideas, whatever you can have, just riff, look into a lens and riff. And the difference even between numerous clients, dozens, of saying, hey, you're going to look at the camera and you're going to look at this thing, between that and when we actually shoot with them first, it's worlds difference just there. And so what is that going to be? Because most of the personal brands out there aren't going to have an agency that they're paying telling them, you owe us 5 reels tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. And then, we're going to have our team look at them. They're never going to see the light of day. And we just need to get the reps up. And that's what you did. And now you can look at a camera and riff like it's nothing.
Yeah.
And that's invaluable. But when you get there, that's when the signal over noise comes.
Yeah.
Because you have to build that muscle memory of just putting in the reps.
Facts. And I think beyond that as well, you put yourself into a position. I mean, I've got the next, I don't know, at this point, month and a half worth of content already locked, loaded, and batched. So I've now bought myself the time to strategize. If something happens that's like in the moment and it's, date event specific, then sure, I can maneuver and I can move things around. But by getting the reps in, number one, you're getting over the inertia, you're getting over even just the fear of being on camera, all of that stuff, getting the reps in, so valuable. If you do that right, what that will also do is afford you the luxury to be able to step back and say, I've actually got some data markers here. I've got some data to be able to say, like, this worked better than that. That works. Like, I've got, I don't know, at this point, 5, 6, 7 reels that have gone over 500,000 views. And some I had a feeling were going to perform well. Some I had no idea. But now I've got data where I can go back in and say, well, what was it? Was it the hook? Was it visual hook? Was it an audio hook? Was it a text-based hook? Was it just the topic that was that interesting? Did I hit something that was just in the moment right there and then? And now you can take that. So now we're talking about signal over noise. You've actually got some metrics to form your signal around and give you that much better chance of performing better moving forwards as well.
Yeah. It's incredible. The feedback loop is important. It's one of the things that we preach. We have systems for that. I think being able to buy yourself time to strategize is important. We see it all the time with clients, both on the personal brand side and the brand side. When your marketing calendar's full, you're able to plan a better campaign. When you're a personal brand, you're able to, hey, here's my foundational content, here are my series. How can then I take care of or take advantage of a moment in time and be timely with things, and not just waking up every day and saying what I'm going to post. We talk to so many people that wake up every day not knowing what they're going to post. But anyway, that's it.
I already knew where you were going with that. Yeah. There's so many, and I think that's also what leads to burnout a lot of the time, because you're mentally just taxed so much because you're like, I've got my day to worry about, life, and now I've got to figure out what the hell I'm going to post today. And I was there in my early journey as well. So yeah, but let's talk about the invisible enemy. This is one of my favorite subjects right now, because we're seeing a lot of brands as well as creators getting the hang of this. Brands in particular, it's interesting on. The classic example, I'll paint the picture. The easiest example is Liquid Death. It's overused now as an example, but it illustrates the point so perfectly. Because if you're a brand, and most brands are guilty of this, they're looking left and right at what their competition are doing. So then they're competing on price, they're competing on very specific or sometimes small, nuanced, tactical things that their product offers that the others don't. And maybe it's a calorie less than the competition, or you know what I mean? These really small things, but then the smarter brands right now are looking for the invisible enemy, not the direct competition left and right of them. And Liquid Death did that, where they looked in on the water industry and said, Levion and these other water brands, they're not our competition. Plastic is our competition. And by doing that, they literally created their own category. They're still in the water category, but within that, there's now a subcategory of, we're competing against or not even the enemy, but the enemy was the lack of ability for a DJ or a sports athlete to feel cool and have what traditionally alcohol gave them with a can of beer or something like that, and not run the risk of getting inebriated or drunk or whatever it might have bbeen. So now you've got DJs on stage with Liquid Death while they're playing their gigs, all the way through to the soccer kid who wants to feel cool around his friends and has like a Liquid Death. So they've created this new category by looking for the invisible enemy, number one, of that, like however you bottle that up or can that up in this instance, and plastic bottles in general. So within that, they've essentially created their own subcategory. And now, I mean, they're freaking massive now.
Yeah, huge. The invisible enemy is interesting. We write about it in the book quite a lot. But, business consultants out there, when there's a general stigma about a service or a product, like you said, like a plastic, or it's too vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
And there people are looking at themselves that are true experts, or brands that have a truly good product. And they're thinking to themselves, like, why am I not winning? And you're just communicating to people's needs poorly.
Yeah.
How do we position this to identify the actual enemy we're fighting against and people are dealing with daily?
Yeah.
And then how do we position ourselves into a new category? Liquid Death is not in the water category like that. Now, obviously, you walk into 7-Eleven and you have to make a choice. You have your Fiji, your Evians, your Mountain Valley Spring, which is another interesting one because it's the only one typically in glass. But you have Liquid Death and it stands out. But that's brand positioning and all this. The invisible enemy is very interesting because I think a lot of people are dealing with this. A lot of people have excuses to why they're not successful. They're very, very good at what they do. And it takes a real deep dive with a different perspective on what the market's thinking, what they're saying, what their pain points are, to be able to pivot and establish yourself in a vertical with no competition because you're solving a problem that people aren't talking to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the invisible enemy is extremely powerful.
I mean, dude, all the way down to the individual fitness coach who currently is competing with all these other fitness coaches, trying to say, I'm the best price, or I'm going to get you the best six pack, or I'm going to make you lose the most amount of weight. But that, to signal and noise, just gets lost in the noise. To the invisible enemy, you're ignoring the invisible enemy. You're not even looking for the invisible enemy because you're just looking left and right at your competition and competing on the same shit that they are.
What are they saying? And then that's what you're asking yourself. It's like, what is my competition doing?
And instead start saying, well, actually, what is my ideal customer looking for in terms of the actual solves? And in doing so, you uncover the invisible enemy. And maybe it's the high-powered CEO that is running out of energy every single day because they're sat at the computer and just mentally taxed. Well, you can solve that through your fitness programs and nutrition. And so you start uncovering, and I feel like that's like the coolest part of the whole, just part of what looking for an invisible enemy does. It's like the onion where you're just peeling back the layers until you find it, because every industry has it. Whether you're a personal brand creator, talent, D2C product like we've just talked about, there's always going to be an invisible enemy at every
And when you identify that, your message then becomes signal versus noise in the people receiving its mind. Even though you've done everything and you're like, hey, I'm passionate about that. It only changes how it's positioned,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like about to do a big speech in front of a bunch of real estate agents and brokers in Vegas. And one of the things that's really interesting is a real estate friend of ours, they're talking about, there are a lot of real estate agents out there. A lot of them don't do very well. I think the average house is sold is like 1 or 2 a year. And then it's like, okay, so Nevada real estate, you moved to Nevada for a short period of time. I can help you find cash flowing properties in Reno that can fool you on paper. What are these positioning metrics that can position you differently? And the only way to find that is to understand truly what people are why are people looking to Reno for investment properties, right? And so it takes some self-discovery, it takes some research, it takes some methodologies to dig into that. But uncovering the invisible enemy is arguably the most important thing any person or brand can do, because we believe that when that melts, when you find that, the competition sort of melts away. Now, people still have decisions to make in substitutive goods with their dollars, but the positioning and the branding and the marketing strategy and and the communication strategy and the social strategy and the content strategy come much easier
Yeah.
when you're able to position yourself in a different way.
Yeah, it's so much more clarity. I mean, you can reel them off. I did a case study on DoorDash. I mean, before DoorDash, what the enemy was convenience. Basically, that's the enemy that they uncovered. That was the invisible enemy. They just wanted to be able to give people convenience, and now DoorDash is huge. I mean, I postmated food here just before we started rolling this pot. So yeah, there's so many ways, but I think it's flipping that switch into the mindset of like, hang on a minute, I'm looking left and right at my competition. I'm getting stuck in the mud here. Classic saying, I'm not seeing the wood for the trees, the forest for the trees, sorry. And it's like, actually, by picking your head up, peeling out some of these layers and looking for that invisible enemy, that's where you get the Ubers, that's where you get the DoorDashes, it's where you get the Liquid Deaths, and all the way down to it's where you get the very specific fitness trainer that's bringing convenience or energy back to high-powered CEOs. And now they've got clarity.
If they're doing the same thing, their target market was affluent individuals that can afford them, and their marketing positioning changed.
Yeah.
And how they talk about, and then because of that, their content's changed.
And now when they're waking up the next day thinking, what am I going to be shooting? The question's already answered.
Rolling back to the creator economy illusion, then that same fitness influencer comes back and goes back to the drawing board about content ideas and scripting.
Yeah.
And building out the foundational content series and all of the things they're going to do to set up their content engine. And then they post something very specific and get half the performance. But the performance they got was with their ideal client. And then so that's why these vanity, and we call it the vanity vortex, these vanity metrics don't matter.
Yep.
Because you get stuck in this thing where it's like, well, no, if you figured out what your true positioning is, and you're able to communicate this in a very precise way that is engaging, and then comes all the tactical things of creating content, right? Then like performance doesn't matter in these different areas. All you need, if you break down as a fitness trainer that you can, handle 25 clients at a time, and 25 CEOs saw your content, and you got 100 views, that's a major win.
Yeah.
If you can book a call with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the interesting part of what we at least communicate, in that those things, identifying that, and then how it all wraps back up. How then do you create signal versus noise, and then how do you create value and start building compounded value for yourself? Is the game.
Love it. I love it. All right. I said if we get time, and I think we can get to it. I think we can get to it. So power of persona engineering, because this honestly just dives in a layer deeper to what we were just talking about. a lot of agencies, in our instance, we're competing against agencies, social content fundamentally. Everybody preaches, get your ICPs, get your customer avatars, look at the personas, whatever terminology you want to look at it. But if you get into the real power of persona engineering, and what we're talking about here is like deep, deep clarity, not just Sally from Arkansas who has a family of 2 and is, shopping on the weekends to get her food for convenience, but actually going really, really deep into the roots of what makes my ideal customer tick. What are their real pain points? What are the things that they're experiencing? Because if you can define that, this piggybacks into everything that we were just talking about. From that comes all of the other tactical things that keep your flywheel going. It informs your content strategy. It informs your social strategy, i.e., what platforms are we turning up to, right? Like, so many people waste their time trying to go big on a podcast when nobody gives a shit about listening to their message for an hour and a half long, or whatever it might be, right? And it's like,
Or they're
actually,
just not that engaging, and that's fine. Long form is for some people,
Mhm.
right? Like, it is different ball game. Not saying you don't have value to add, it's just not engaging.
I don't know that I'm trying to listen for an hour and a half about why I should drink water from a can instead of a plastic bottle.
No,
You can get me that message in 60 seconds.
and that doesn't that's no shade on Liquid Death,
For sure.
but, you know, yeah, it's water.
But that's why they
Yeah.
that's why they spend their time where they spend their time.
Yeah.
In 30 to 60-second snackable, engaging, thought-provoking pieces of content.
How do we get your attention? Create memory structure, so next time you're thinking about buying water, you make the decision to buy
Yeah.
it from us. Because we've already built the foundation of brand equity in your mind. So how can we just remind you that we're always here? Coca-Cola is the best, Budweiser is the best at this, these big brands. But yeah, it's amazing. The persona thing, it's very, very important. It's like, no, what emotionally moves them? I was having a really interesting conversation this week with Arifa. I was telling you about it. She's a neuroscientist, and now she's a neuromarketer. And what she does for big brands is she goes and she plugs in EKGs, EEGs, and all of these biometric measuring devices. There we go.
Okay.
And so, like, you see a piece of content, how does your brain react?
Wow.
How does your heart rate, and how do your HRV, change? And there's all of this stuff. And she comes in, and so if we're testing packaging, and now, who are we going to put this in front of, right? Because I don't know, Grandpa might not care
Yeah,
about
you've
what
got to get
waters are,
very specific.
right?
Yeah.
So personas matter, but it was very interesting. We're doing a study together for AOS, and she was talking about just like it's expensive to do it because of the equipment and also the program that she's built, because she's an engineer, an AI engineer, and she's built some stuff. So she's actually the most affordable in the space to do this, and not many people are doing this. But how different people react to different things. And going back to Sally, if Sally doesn't even buy bottled water and has a well, you're selling and talking to the wrong person.
Yeah.
So, what are they experiencing? What are they emotionally moved by? What are their driving forces in their life? What do they believe in? It's really, really important. We dig into an AOS with brands. It's even more important if you don't know you're selling to. I mean, it's, but as a personal brand, if I'm a CEO and I've built a successful company, it's very obvious who I'm talking to. But in a very, very crowded place of supplements that we work a lot in health and wellness, they have to know exactly who they're talking to, and it can't be blanket. They say market to all folk and you go broke. Market's the niche and you go rich.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Dude, I think that's an awesome place to end it. I think that was a lot of value.
Yeah. One.
We take it.
We'll take it, brother.
Alrighty.